Welcome back. You're watching Luck on Sunday. Always good to welcome to the studio the Chair of Women in Racing, Tallulah Lewis. Tallulah, good to see you.
Good morning.
And you wouldn't be here unless you had something to tell me.
I do,
and you have something important to tell me today.
Very exciting. We are starting a new project called Racing Home. And it is all about looking at working mothers in the horse racing industry.
Of which there are many.
Which there are many and make up a lot of our staff. And then also women who want to have children at some point but need to navigate the minefield that is children, careers, how to chat to employers and everything that goes with it. So we're really excited. We've got some funding from the Racing Foundation. The Kindred Group have also sponsored us, which we think is really great to have such a kind of organisation as them come on board. And then also Oxford Brookes, who are going to do some research, have also come in to help.
Tell me a bit about the Kindred Group who are supporting you.
Yeah, so they have Unibet, Red 32, so scientific games. So they're kind of in the gambling sector. And it's really great because they're really interested in sort of sustainability within the industry and the retention of staff. So they were really excited to hear about the project. One of their staff is a member of Women in Racing just through the sport, and she heard about it and thought they'd be really interesting in helping us.
So you're getting a major gambling conglomerate backing you and supporting you. What about the support that you've had from some of the racing stakeholders? Oh,
it's been phenomenal. We held a symposium back in November in London and invited sort of 40-odd stakeholders in the industry, kind of the BHA, the racecourses and everything. Suddenly had 60 people turn up who wanted to hear about this project and what we wanted to do. So it was really interesting. I think there's a real appetite to start having this conversation in the sport. It's obviously one that's a wider issue across kind of all industries and sectors in the world, really. But the horse racing industry have really suddenly gone, let's chat about it and see what we can do.
Right, so where are we now and where can we get to and how do we get there?
So we're going to launch workshops. So the plan is that it's all about starting this conversation. How can people start talking about, you know, the issues they might face as a working mother, how they juggle it, how they try and navigate their career. And we want to have this open conversation with them and, you know, women and men in the industry, because it affects both, across workshops. We're having 6 across the country that are going to kick off in March, all across kind of the different regions. So up in Scotland, a really exciting one at Southwell Racecourse on International Women's Day. I don't know if you saw, they're doing the kind of all-official...
Isn't it all female jockeys, flat and jumps, mixed card, and all mostly staffed by female staff?
So a real showcase of females in the sport. And then in the morning, before racing kicks off, we're going to have a workshop on Racing Home and invite anyone who's going racing or anyone of the staff who are working there that day to come in and talk about the topic, so we can hear about it. So it's really exciting, and I think, you know, all the race courses that have come on board, we've got a workshop in Newmarket, down in Lambourne. You know, everyone has said, yeah, come and use our venue, we'd love to have you. You know, what can we do to help? How can we spread the word? Because they're just interested in it. I think it's a key one for the sport to kind of recognise.
So what feedback is your research telling you from women in the sport who have had children, who want to have children, and the difficulties they face logistically and otherwise? Yeah,
so one of the things we're really going to cover with the research, so Oxford Brookes, who did our other piece of research that we did a few years ago on diversity and women in the sport, they're running this piece of research. We've got a really nice continuity there. And they're going to look at sort of some of the issues logistically that women might face, which kind of childcare, you know, getting to work, plus also, you know, putting your child in nursery or in school, the different times that you have to pick them up compared with the sort of morning stables, evening stables, or stud work, and then the 9 to 5 administration jobs. So covering all that aspect. And the idea from the research is to really get some data out of it so we can look at what solutions we could come up with. So we don't have the solutions yet, but we're hoping that kind of by listening to everyone and getting their sort of case studies, that we'll be able to kind of suggest to the industry, you know, we think that this could be a really good solution that we could bring in. We're working with the Diversity in Racing Steering Group as well, so that when we get this information, we can give it to them and help them feed it out to their connections.
Because racing is a sport which operates under irregular hours, do you think in some ways that could actually be an advantage, where you require some flexibility with your timing, that it may not be a disadvantage that racing doesn't have rigid working hours.
Completely, and I think as a sport we actually could be leaders in this area because of our flexible timings. Also, we have kind of regional areas where a lot of racing is grouped, so Newmarket, Lambourne, Midland, we're kind of positioned quite well geographically to maybe bring in some solutions because we've got sort of hubs around the country. So I think it will be really interesting to see what we can come up with, and if we can kind of find some interesting solutions that might then other industry sectors could take and use themselves.
Anecdotally, do you find that women are returning to work in racing having had children or not?
Not. I think it's a tricky one. I think quite a few people we've spoken to have found it quite hard to navigate. I think some of the case studies we spoke about at the symposium, and people volunteered their stories, were kind of, if they've been work riders, how do you return to work riding when you've become a mother? And it's a different process to kind of go through, and it might not be the exact same job you want to go back to, but is there something else at the yard you can do? And it's being creative, I think, when they want to return to work.
How are employers responding to this? Because there's an onus on employers to know their responsibilities and to know the law in this instance.
Yeah, really well. We had quite a number of trainers at the symposium. BHA were there, racecourses as well. I think they're just in the dark as, all the women who are going through this. I think one of the key things we had on our panel was Suzanne Homewood, she's a member of Women in Racing and one of our mentors, and she looks after Samsung Enterprises. And she said, as an employer, it's just as much as a minefield as it is for the employee, because it's just not a spoken about topic. She was really interesting. She said, I'd love an employee to come up to me and say, can I talk about the fact that I might want to go and have a child in 2 years, and I don't want it to affect my job, but I want it to work for both of us. Can we work out a way that we could plan my career over the next few years and factor that in? And she's really open to that sort of conversation happening as well.
Because you don't have to go very far to know somebody who is, say, in their mid-20s to mid-30s who is yet to have a child but is starting to settle down into family life, and then they apply for a job, and obviously it's illegal for any employer to discriminate on that basis, but it doesn't stop it happening, whether consciously or otherwise.
Completely, and I think it's just about having an awareness and a conversation. Wouldn't it be great if you could sit down with your employer and say, I want to keep working with you for the next 5-10 years, but I also want to have children, so if we can try and do some planning. It doesn't obviously always work that way, but why not have a chat about it and not feel like you're going to jeopardise your career for it?
And of course, these children are the future of the sport.
Completely.
Potentially. So we have to be significantly open-minded. How do you feel that the Women in Racing project is going since you took over from Susanna Gill?
Really well. I think what's so nice is the industry is really behind women in racing now. We've got some great organisation who just sign up all their staff. The BHA, British Racing School, have signed up loads of their staff. So we're now beginning to get less kind of individual sign-ups for membership, and companies kind of coming in and saying, do you know what, I really want to make this part of my employee benefits package. All the women in the company, I'd like to sign up to Women in Racing because we offer the mentoring programme for free, the bursary scheme, and also the events. And they're seeing it as quite a nice way to offer their staff, a little bit more of a, incentive to become an employee, which I think is really great that the industry has suddenly gone, this could be a good one.
Well, as always, it's good to see you. Thank you very much for coming and updating us.
Thank you
I
so
know
much.
you will do throughout the year.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. It's been great.
Not at
Cheers.
all. Tallulah Lewis, the chair of Women in Racing. Subscribe to Racing TV to be notified when more Luck on Sunday videos are appearing online. And don't forget to join me for the show every Sunday morning from 9 o'clock with the best guests.